Welcome back, everyone. Let's head on to the next panel session of the day entitled Behind the Scenes of Professional Esports Athletes or Players. Moderating this session, please join me in welcoming back Muhammad Farouq or Patah, Director of Communications, Malaysia Electronic Sports Federation and content creator, C Gamer Mob. Now, known in the fraternity as Flavor. With this, I pass it over to my fellow host and friend. Over to you, Flavor.
Right, thank you very much, and Hastro, for the amazing opening remarks right here. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings and welcome back to our esports conference right here. We're done with our first segment previously on the topic of business investments in esports, and we're jumping right into the second we have for today on the topic of behind the scenes of professional esports athletes and players. And let me tell you this, I've invited some remarkable guests to actually join us for this segment itself, and it gives me great pleasure and honor to introduce to you to firstly, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Pontus Mahler, or more famously known as Zlap. At times I do get confused. I'm not even sure whether should I address you as Pontus or even Zlap throughout this whole segment.
That's completely up to you. I think we can stick to Zlap since it's a gaming conference, right? That makes things easier.
Yeah. I think everybody's much more comfortable with their IGNs on this. All right, so Zlap is joining us. He is the Director of Business Development for GTR. Actually, the full for it is actually GTR Accelerator, correct?
Yeah, we go by GTR Accelerator or Global Top Round, and then also Game Rounds. Those are the two companies.
All right, so Zlap, our first speaker for today. And secondly, we're also joined by Mr. Khor Soon, or more famously known as Eric Khor, the Dota 2 team director of Fnatic. Eric, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so Eric, I believe Eric has just arrived in, where are you right now, Eric?
I'm in Romania right now. We just came here for like the boot camp for the international quarantining right now. So
yeah, he's there for nothing major. It's just TI. Yeah, so he's currently in Romania. Just dropping by, and thank you so much for joining us right here, Mr. Eric. And of course, last but not least, we're also joining by Mr. Chen Sun Nam, or better known as Andrew Chen. Andrew.
Hello, Lava. Hello, everybody.
All right, so Andrew is the general manager of EVOS Malaysia. I'd like to correct that because he did PM me last night and he said like, hey, can we change it to EVOS Malaysia? Because EVOS as an organization is too big and he's like the Malaysia branch. So yeah, so welcome, gentlemen, for joining in. Thank you so much for willingly to actually be part of our discussion for today on the topic of behind the scenes of professional esports athletes and players. And I do believe this is a topic that I really like to share with the people listening in, because a lot of people feel that this is an industry, or this is an ecosystem which a lot of people are not familiar with, where people kind of underestimate or undermine the toughness of being an esports athlete, I would say. And I think a lot can agree on this. All right, so gentlemen, if you're ready, we'd like to go straight into the topic itself. Is everyone good with that? All right, cool.
Yes.
All right, cool. All right, so the first thing is that, like, as an esports athlete, all right, I just want to start with this. Do esports players or athletes have the same training or discipline as other sports athletes? Now, this is very important because people don't see esports athletes as athletes per se, because how hard can playing games be, as a gaming athlete? So if anyone would like to respond on this.
I'll do it, I guess. The general training for, obviously, esports is not as physical as sports. We don't sweat a whole much, we're not building super big muscles. The difference really is that the training is very different, because obviously in gaming you can play all day. You can play all day as long as you're not fatigued by it. You can continue playing. So the level of competitiveness and the level of people catching up to you is it's really fast. So the general training, obviously, we practice a lot. There's a lot of holistic way to approach training systems in general, and some of them would include hand-eye coordination, which is very, very important to gamers, competitive gamers, and that is really the one thing that I would say is very, very similar to sports, hand-eye coordination, because I would say most of these players at a professional level, they do respond a lot faster to things. Similar to general athletes as well. So there's one thing that is very similar between esports and sports. Physical wise, we do try to keep fit, but we don't really have to like build muscles as much. We just need to like keep ourselves healthy and just regulate ourselves so that we don't burn out from all the from all the training that we.
Okay, right. Just to respond to what you were talking about just now, like, yes, correct. They were not burning as much. Like, you're not expecting esports athletes to get buffed, or running a treadmill for 10 kilometers every single morning and all that stuff. But is there a certain kind of training regimen? For example, are they required to actually do morning stretches? Do esports athletes really wake up early in the morning and or they just, in the mindset of the mass public, they would expect gamers to wake up anytime they want. They just train whenever they want, and not really like in compared to athletes where they wake up really early in the morning, have breakfast, do a little bit of cardio here and there, and then have trainings, and then continue and have some workouts in the evening and such. Do we have that for esports?
Yeah, at the highest level, yeah. We do have. Even my team, we do have like a certain regimen that we go through daily, in which there is a set waking up time. Okay, it might not be 6 a.m., but it's like 8 to 9 a.m. So generally, we want to do everything in a more, like, how to say this, scientific way. And there's a lot of research that has been put into how people perform throughout the day, etc. And we would be obviously doing a little bit of research on that, and we will do exercise obviously for our own health, and also just to what do you call it? It helps with stamina throughout the day. Like it helps with your energy level, and obviously food and nutrition as well, which would improve your general alertness that goes into it. So in that sense, it is similar to sports in a way. We do have a regimen. We don't sleep at 4 a.m. By the way, we do sleep quite early. We do sleep before 12, and we try to wake up as early as we can usually.
Okay, wow, this is a little bit different. I really want to redirect this a little bit to Slab, because Slab, you were an ex-professional Han player, right? Is this true that you go through this kind of regimen when you were an esports player?
So I would say that everything has changed like drastically in the last like 5 years in particular. But before that, like when I first started playing professionally, we arrived to events and we got pan pizza, we got other types of like fast food, and it was just really, really bad. We were getting energy drinks, they were everywhere. It was like a whole different world, and this was about 10 years ago. And it wasn't that healthy, to be honest. And also the general conception of gamers was, they sleep late, like Eric said, they wake up whenever they want, they eat whatever they want. And things were just really wrong, because while that may have been true in the consumer side to some extent, professional games have never been like that. The fact is that we were complaining at every one of these events, why are we not getting normal food? Why are we not getting normal drinks? Which is why the sentiment eventually changed when money came in and sponsors came in and better organizers came in. So in the last few years, in particular, when we go to events, we get different kinds of menus. They make sure there's healthy options. It's more coffee rather than energy drinks. You get pretty much anything that you need as a person so that you can perform just like regular athletes. And another thing that Eric kind of touched upon, which is really important, is that in esports in particular, like he said, there is no fatigue until you play 12, 16 hours maybe. So most big teams actually put a max limit you can play per day, because mentally you need to actually be ready for the next day as well. It's not healthy playing 12 hours or 16 hours. So that's why you have a coach. Some teams even have masseuses to make sure your hands and your back and everything is okay. And the more we kind of evolve in esports, the more we're going to become more like regular sports, where there are psychology coaches and everything that just take care of both mental and physical capacity, because we need it. Because the most important thing here is that if you were playing football right now, or anyone that does regular sports, and that if you played 10 hours of football a day, you could become messy, because there's no limitations on your body, right? It's just your brain. How long can you make it? You'd want to keep playing football. You'd want to play 10 hours a day, because your body is not getting exhausted. And the more you play, the more like messy you will become. And that's kind of the issue, right? Which is why it's important that you have a good coach, you have a good manager that regulates as well and tells you and kind of helps you with how much you should and shouldn't play, and also helps you with diet and so forth. Because otherwise, trust me, I did it myself. I played 12 hours a day because I wanted to be the best in the world. That's all I wanted to be. And if I played 5 hours, that wasn't possible. But over time, you learn, and with help from your coaches, which I love that, today every team has a coach or a manager taking care of you. With that kind of help, you'll stay like 100% perfect, both physically and mentally.
I can safely assume that you were actually living in that era where you had to go through all that unhealthy food, fast food and stuff, and you didn't, and you were sharing that actually the teams did not like that, and was actually, did your team manager or coach actually engage with organizing and tell them that, hey, we don't want this and we want you to change?
Yeah, we did. We actually complained at every single event. The first one was DreamHack, and DreamHack's an amazing company now. And the first event we attended was DreamHack. And yeah, the lunch was basically, kebab and pan pizza. That's not the kind of food that is going to keep us going. So we went outside the venue to buy food outside because that's healthier. Because the thing is, any kind of like massive fatty food or massive carbs is just going to keep you energetic for a very short amount of time. You need fiber, you need things that are going to keep your brain like set, because you're going to be playing at the event for, 4 to 8 hours a day. You're going to meet fans, you're going to take pictures. It's very mentally draining. I mean, you asked, one of the things about your question was, do we have the same discipline? I would say in some aspects, we need higher discipline than regular sport players because it's such an extended period of time. So while they're getting physical exhaustion, we're getting mental exhaustion because we have to deal with everything that's happening around us, all this bad food and so forth. Well, not the food anymore, but before. And it's just really draining. So I would say that we've come a really long way. I mean, I haven't played in the last 3 years. So I guess Eric and Andrew knows more than me now on the player kind of side. But before I stopped, we were getting, like I said, the same meals as normal people. We were getting whatever drinks we wanted, and we were getting very well taken care of. We also had translators everywhere so we could interact with the other teams. So it was a very nice experience. Yeah.
Okay, all right, great insights. Now, there's something I really want to touch on. That's something Eric mentioned that actually caught my attention, because you did mention that all your players actually sleep before 12 midnight, meaning that they are like the A grade of any Asian child. Like they would sleep before 12, they don't lick around and all this. But then, to my knowledge of the esports scenes available here in South Asia itself, like for mobile games like PUBG Mobile, Mobile Legends, and other games, scrims between professional teams with other professional teams in other regions or countries would usually begin roughly around 10, 11 p.m. due to reasons where that's the excuse they were giving was this was the available time that they have where they can actually scrim with professional teams. So how does that differ? Is that or is it different for different game titles because you're managing Dota too?
Yeah, it definitely is different because there's a difference between the mature esports and the slightly not mature one. PUBG Mobile is very new. Also requires many teams, by the way, to pull off a scrim. So with that many people involved, normally there's some people who have to work. I mean, because it's such a new esports title, so some people are not getting fully paid to do this all day. So they will have to go to work in the morning, so they can scrim at night. So that is the slight difference between the current new titles versus the old mature ones like Dota, CS:GO, League of Legends. So these older ones are typically the players would be getting paid enough to do this all day, and they would regulate themselves to do what is best to perform. This includes, as Pontus say, we do have a set regimen of how many hours we should play per day, so we don't go over that limit. And we do have bedtime where everybody will have to should be like heading to sleep. I mean, you can be slightly late, of course, but I mean, you don't go to sleep at 3 a.m. when the supposed call time is 12 a.m. So yeah, we regulate basically all aspects of our players, especially when it comes to when it goes nearer to tournaments. I think the regulation gets a lot more stricter.
Yeah, interesting.
Because we will have to optimize for like specific tournament times as well.
Yeah, I would love to hear this from Andrew, because Andrew, you yourself manage a number of teams that actually do practice the screens at times, which is because usually in normal conventional sports, they will ensure that their screen time or practice time will be the same time as tournament time. So for example, if tournaments were to be from 10 a.m. to 8 or 10 p.m., so basically those will be training time, because to ensure that the body of the athlete is adapting, the scrim is the same, adapting to the tournament itself. So what's your insight on this?
Yeah, I think different titles have different timings for training. As for PUBG, we used to play at night, but as the Pro League, as it's ongoing right now, as there was day one, for 2 months we have afternoon scrims. So yeah, people are adjusting it because we need to have more scrims to perform, to practice. Before this, we would just have night scrims. Yeah, so to compare with other titles that I have FIFA players. They just play all day, but it depends on the ping also lah. That one is the technical issue. And I used to have League of Legends, Dota, CS:GO. Yeah, they do train at the afternoon, and right before lunchtime. I mean, right before dinner, they will stop dinner and continue to scrim for two matches. Then we call it a day. Then we go back. Yeah,
I see. So basically coming closer to professional level, professional tournaments by game developers, basically you start doing scrims in the afternoon just to attend and accommodate to the
Yes.
professional tournament.
Yeah.
Right. This is interesting insights right here. And this thing has been implemented for quite a while, or is it something very recent?
For PUBG Mobile. I mean,
I suppose for a number of esports game titles.
Yeah.
Or is this just for PUBG Mobile?
Yeah, this is for PUBG Mobile. So, and as Eric said, not every teams are getting paid sufficiently so that they can do this all day. So because of that, most of the team, they are free at night, so they can just play at night. And while they are playing at night, afternoon we are just our solo training is not scrim solo training, because there's not enough teams. I mean, high level teams in Malaysia to make the scrims on that tier level. The quality control is not there during the afternoon, during off season. But when the season is almost here, people will start doing afternoon scrims. Yeah.
All
Can I just add something to that? So apart from PUBG Mobile, obviously PUBG Mobile is a very different game. In the 16 teams, it's very tough. I'm talking if it's like other games like War Rift or like Mobile Legends. I mean, there's only 2 teams involved in these trainings, right? I think generally to basically bring it. I mean, normally you want to bring the streams to like the afternoon time. I think post after lunch, and then you want to try to end it before dinner if possible. So I think it generally is like a collective team effort. Like all the teams in general just have to like come down and sit down and try to set a proper time, like 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock maybe, to do these trainings, and then everybody will have to collectively agree so that everybody will be screaming around that time, and nobody try to go like further earlier or later. I mean, you can go slightly later, but I guess, but not too much later. So that because you won't find good opponents to train against after that. So you try to come with a collective where everybody agrees to like train at this time for the best performance, and then when everybody agrees, then that is the set time for the whole basically region / country.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Now, coming on to our next question. Now, it can be seen that most esports athletes are young and mostly below the age of 30 years old, as the young ones have better hand-eye coordination and reflex compared to those who are much older or beyond that age cap. All right. So, and basically it can be said that the professional lifespan of a player is much shorter compared to normal or conventional sports out there. So how long is the career of being an esports athlete?
If I may go first, I
Yes.
highly disagree. So it's just like it's the human body, right? So the difference is that the younger people have an easier learning capacity. They can easily pick up new things. They can easier change meta. They can get into new games, new types of things going on, but they're not better than the older ones. It just takes the older ones longer time to learn. They're not as easy to adapt. So let's take Pasha Biceps in like Counter-Strike. I don't know how old he is now, 35 something or whatever. He's still like at a top level in Counter-Strike, right? He quit last year, I think. But the point was he played very long because it's all about muscle memory. You know, like when I played Han the last couple of years before I quit, I didn't need to think. I just knew. It's like if I saw an HP bar and I saw my amount of damage on my hero, I didn't need to do the math. I knew exactly whether or not I was going to kill the hero. While a younger kid initially will just know, you know, just by playing the game, they'll just instantly pick it up. After a couple of games, they'll just know what to do. So us so-called older people now, I guess Andrew, Eric, and I are all on the older stage now, we would still be able to compete professionally on the same level. It will just take longer for us to pick up new things. So if Dota 3 were to come out, the younger people would be better than us faster. We'll be able to catch up. We'll be able to compete on their level, just not as quickly. So I completely disagree with the sentiment that, you know, after 30, you can't play. However, if a completely new game came out, like that changes everything, it would probably take quite a long time before we can catch up to the young people. And a great example is one of my old teammates who plays your Team Liquid, right? Mikke. When I found him in Han, he was 12, if I remember correctly. And it was the same thing there. You know, me and Insania, we just saw there's so much talent in this kid. He doesn't really know what he's doing. And you know, once we started playing together, I asked him, why did you do that? He's like, I don't know. I just knew it was the right thing to do. And, you know, now at my age, when I play Dota, I'm actually calculating, right? So I play Dota in my free time every now and then. I actually have to do the math. I actually have to think about what I'm doing. I didn't have to do that a couple of years ago. So again, I think it's the wrong way to say that you kind of expire around 30. It's just going to take some more time. But I'll let Andrew and, you know, Eric disagree with me if they want to.
I agree now. So obviously, I mean, I heard a saying from a coach, a very famous coach in Dota. I'm not gonna name him, but he told me basically it's easier to learn stuff than unlearn stuff. So what basically all the veterans of specific games, they have learned so much stuff in this game that it is hard to change it. And the young kids, they are more willing to experiment. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there is a science behind that. Younger players are better at hand-eye coordination than the older guys. I mean, there is definite science behind that. It is just that what the younger players could do with their hand-eye coordination, the veterans have their experience as well, which the younger players wouldn't have. So they could handle situations better. They know they assess situations much easier as well, compared to the younger players who probably it's very adrenaline filled button pressing is what they're really good at. So I do disagree that over 30 would make you bad. I mean, if you look at Dota, for example, we have Ice, who's coming up to 30 right now. He is playing at an extremely high level, still considered one of the best offlaners in the world. And he's reaching that age, and he is not showing any signs that he's worse than any of the young players, because he works very hard. He's also very smart, and he has a wealth of experience behind him that basically has a perspective that the younger players could even struggle to catch up on. So yeah, I do disagree. I agree with Pontus that I disagree with, you know, 30 years old being the absolute limit where players would generally retire.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing on right there. Yeah, I do remember even for Dota, we do have somebody called Old Man Fear, where he's currently right now, if I'm not mistaken, he's 33 and still going, I suppose. And basically not putting a cap at 30, but 30 is kind of like people, whoever reaches 30 in esports will consider it as all, you know, and people do have a feeling that most of esports athletes, by the time they're 30, they're no longer there. But there's still quite a number of few esports athletes who are at the age who are still going, you know, and continuing on. Yeah, so I guess right this.
But if I may add something there, you can think about it from this, and I guess you're probably going to ask this question later on where we kind of go after. But I think it's when we reach that age, it's like Eric said, we have unbeatable experience. You know, we know so much more than these young people, but we're not as fast. We're not going to pick it up as much. So it's just like the smart transition to go into another role, to go into, for example, a coaching role, because if we can take all that experience and just like pound that into these, you know, young kids that have so much potential and just like speed them ahead 3, 4, 5 years, that's going to be so good for our team, right? So it's not about, you know, us not being good enough. It's like I can take all that knowledge I have and pass it on to someone else who can do it better. So by the time they're my age, they're going to be twice as good as me. Right. And it's a great example. If you look at the kind of pace of a game like Dota 10 years ago, it was slow. People took less, you know, experiments, less risks. Nowadays, people go crazy. You know, they try really cool strategies. They experiment with new heroes, and you know, the crowd goes crazy as well because they love when, you know, Meepo gets picked, for example, or something else. So it's just like everything is evolving very quickly, and I don't think that there's anybody in the world right now who knows what Dota is going to be in 3 years or League's going to be in 3 years, because it's going to change. And I think that is a combination of the older generation teaching and like taking that experience and adding it to the new ones, while the new ones come in with new ideas, and then you find that perfect like middle ground where you come up with the game that is today, which we all call a meta game.
Yeah, I mean, there's one team, I think in CS, the oldest player was 30 something and the youngest player was like just 17. Yeah, so, and they are competing at the highest level, makes that age is just a number. And because of their age, they have their experience. So that will give them the advantage. Even for PUBG Mobile right now, there's one team, they have a player who's I think 29 years old, 30 years old right now. And may I add is because the game is on the mobile phone, it will strain your eye even faster. It will give you poor eyesight even faster. And at the age of 30, I don't think you will want to play the game for hours and hours. But because of the experience there, they can just play a few games and they only scrims, I would say, only scrims, but no solo training. So they are still at the level.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen. Now we want to jump to our next topic right here. Now this is interesting. We're talking about match fixing, gambling, smurfing, performance enhancing drugs. I mean, there's a lot in this category. Addiction to games are some example of negative activities that happens in any sport. And of course, it is also available in esports as well. Now, my question is here, in your organization, does the team management supervise or regulate the players in any way to prevent those from happening? And if yes, what kind of actions or regulations are being made on them?
Okay, I think it's best for me to answer this. Okay, look, if somebody, I mean, obviously, if you get a higher pay, the likeliness of you match fixing is like slightly lower, right? But you know what? It does happen. It happened in all the traditional sports as well. People got high pay, but they wanted more money, so they match fix, or they have a gambling problem, so they match fix, right? So it does happen, and trust me when I say these match fixers, these like agents for match fixing, if they want to reach a certain player, they will reach that player. There is no like, oh, I'm gonna block you from talking to them. There's no such thing. They will get to the players. So the only real thing that we can do is obviously we have a proper onboarding process, in which we laid out very clearly on what is wrong and what is right, and obviously the punishment that is being handed out by tournament organizers are very, very severe when it comes to match fixing when caught. It's just that with proper onboarding, with proper accountability, and also obviously thirst for success, and I would say to a certain degree, part of your recruitment process would have to be like we have to consider that part as well, in which likelihood to like, you know, do something that is not good for the team, etc. So all of those combined, it decreases the chance of match fixing happen. And luckily for me, it has never happened to my team. I think that we have generally paid pretty well, and we also generally have a pretty decent onboarding process in which people are very highly accountable on their actions, and they are also all very hungry to succeed. So they wouldn't be going into that. I would say most professional teams at a high level have received like offers such as this at one point or another throughout the lifespan of the team. It's just that there will be and most of the time what's stopping it is really players being accountable on and being professional about their job and not succumbing to this.
Yeah, and I kind of want to do this in like steps. So the first thing is that, yeah, like he said, Eric, we have been approached like that ourselves, like as a team, but also me as an individual. It's very normal. People want to make a bit of an extra cash, and it's very intriguing, right? If you're young in particular, and someone tells you can make $10,000-$20,000, which your parents might not have been able to make at that age, you might be very inclined to fix it. You might want to just get that extra money. Maybe you'll give it to your parents later on. You might be inclined to do so at a young age. The only thing that we can do is, like Eric said, the management, just telling them about the risks. The organizers putting very extreme penalties, because I don't think people understand this is people's money you're playing with. It's not just you making money, so to speak. You might potentially lose a ton of people money that, have actually bet on the game in a normal fashion. And that brings me to the second point, and that's gambling generally, right? It's a very niche topic, and especially in Asia, where I'm based as well, gambling is illegal pretty much everywhere. But I do want to say that gambling is very important in esports. But with that said, you can gamble with not real money. You can gamble with things that you have earned in the game, with coins, with currencies that don't affect your real life. I think that's something that is more important than using real money where there's real stakes at hand. Now, why is gambling important in this manner? It's because it adds a lot more rivalry between teams, which adds a lot more fans, which ultimately adds a lot more money into esports that we can then use to improve the industry. If you look at traditional sports and you go to Europe and you look at any team, let's say Arsenal versus Liverpool, 80% of those people are probably gambling on that match that are at the arena or are in that area. So it's a very important mindset to have, especially for us Westerners, that we're able to kind of bet for our favorite team and see the outcome. But in esports, the audience is much younger. And that's why I've always been against gambling. So I've actually never bet real money on esports myself in my entire career. And I never will, because of that one fact. If I started promoting gambling as an esport player or as an influencer, and I was responsible for a 15-year-old losing their parents' money, I wouldn't feel good about myself. So in my 13 years now career, I've never promoted a gambling site in esports or about an esport match. And I don't want to, for that one reason. So we need regulation on that side as well. So while I think gambling is important with in-game currency and allowing players to bet with things they've made in the game, I think we need really, really important regulation on kids being able to get access to this, being able to invest real money, and make sure that that goes away. In traditional sports, there is so much regulation about minors being involved in this, and I don't think we're really there yet in esports. So I do think that organizations as well have to be very careful about promoting this, because I don't think you understand when you promote gambling in esports, there's 12-year-olds watching, there's 14-year-olds watching, and they're going to grow up wanting to do this. So I say this as a personal opinion, but I do think that any esport player or influencer as well should just stray away from this until there is more regulation, because I think that's something that doesn't get talked about enough. We need to be very careful about kind of telling minors to get involved in this. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to say on that in general. And then for the drugs portion, honestly, since I started, I have never seen anybody that I know or any competitor team take any sort of performance-enhancing drug. I know Ritalin and Adderall and all this stuff has been talked about at events, and I know it's been legal in the US, if I'm not mistaken, before. And I have no experience. I've never seen it in Han, and also in Dota in my brief period there. So I have no feedback on that. So maybe Eric and Andrew, you have something more.
Awesome. I mean, I just to go in one go. I mean, like Pontus, when you joined, when you were in your organization for Han before this, did you go through the same induction or this same process that Fnatic did for their players?
Well, I was the CEO of my organization, so yeah. I put.
So did you apply this? in your organization?
No, because I mean, pretty much I played with, Insania and Mickey and Keizu and these players that are now very famous in Dota. They've been, amazing people since the beginning of esports, and they are still amazing to today. They still play Dota to today. They're still being successful, and I couldn't be more proud of them. I'm sad I'm not with them there sometimes, but honestly, I just got tired of playing every day. It's very mentally straining, as we talked about before. I wanted to go away to something else. So no, I did not. However, when I started, I became the CEO of Neolution Esports in, Southeast Asia, and, I managed we had 16 teams in Thailand. And honestly, I think that's a cultural thing. My Thai teams were just really easy to work with. They weren't as the Westerners, and they didn't care about partying or anything like that. They were just so set on becoming successful and getting better at the games and inspiring people. And it was a really nice cultural difference. So I didn't have to do any sort of induction with my players. And, the thing that we did do, however, which is exactly what I talked about regulations and about making sure you set a good example, is that we did, stalk them on all social medias. We double checked what they had said. We double checked there was no, racism or any bad comments or any promotion of services that we do not like. And I think that is very important. Like, you might not understand or think about it as a young player today, but if I said something 10 years ago, it might come up today, right? Like something bad that I said that will just reflect bad on me as a person. So it's important that if you do believe you are going to become good at any sort of esport game, or you think you're going to get fans in the future, think about what you say. It might not matter to you, but it will matter to the 10,000 kids you're going to inspire 5 years from now. So we did a lot of, stalking to make sure that our players had the right mindset, because it's okay. You have certain political opinions or, gambling opinions or whatever, just keep it to yourself. The thing is that it's not regulated yet. And, and your political opinion should stay to yourself most of the time. And just make sure that, kids are watching, their parents are watching. And if we're all going to make esports into Olympic games and, world finals everywhere, we need to act more like regular sports when it comes to this, because I do believe that regular sports does a better job of monitoring their social medias. Again, this is all personal opinion, guys. You can, of course, disagree, but that's how I see it. Yeah.
Great advice. Keep your opinions to yourselves. I think that's the best advice you can actually give to anyone right here.
Well, keep your external opinions to yourself.
External opinions, yeah. Specific external opinions, please ask yourself. All right, my next question is this. All right, so we want to know, like, these esports athletes, people do see them having, especially those who actually play at the highest level, we want to know about their behaviors. Are esports athletes demanding or have high expectations when they get into big esports organizations? For example, do you demand for a huge salary, great food, all expense paid, 5-star hotels, a butler, a chef to cook for them, also a masseuse at all times, all that? Are esports players like that?
I think I'll start. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think all players is like that. Even if they are, I would not pick them, because I think they're way over their head. But for me, the players that I have right now, they are getting great food, great salary. I provide them PC, I provide them device to play PUBG, to do anything, and because we are providing those things, so they don't need to think about anything besides playing the game and winning the game. So if they are demanding, I wish that they're gonna demand the management gonna be better. So then I will be like, okay, fine, this player is looking for the future. Is looking at whoever management that can provide him the best environment for him to grow or to win. So yeah, I don't think so. But if there is, I wouldn't care about him right now.
Yeah, so I think it's a very subjective thing, because not everyone is like that, but you do agree that there are people who are like that out there, who wants to live that lifestyle, because they keep seeing these professional players like flying first class, traveling to tournaments, getting all this amazing stuff, getting brand sponsorships and more. Probably they will want the same. And I think Zlap, I mean, like you are, you're basically one of the legendary people who've been playing in the like a few years back as a professional. I'm not sure if it was like that back then.
Honestly, we the only thing we hoped for back then was being taken okay care of, because when I started there, it wasn't very nice. You know, we didn't have good transports to our hotels. The rooms weren't very good. We were getting crammed into one room to save budget. Again, the food was not very good, and it was just really, really bad. Honestly, the first really good tournament experience we had was with Garena. When we traveled to Thailand, Bangkok for the first like GSL, you know, they picked us up in a massive van at the airport, even if we came at different times. They drove us to the hotel. There were 2 people per room, which was, you know, totally fine. And, you know, we had breakfast planned out and they had a bus picking us up. That was the first time we were really treated well. And then when we arrived to the event, you know, they asked us, what time do you want lunch? What kind of coffee do you want? And that's honestly all we cared for back then. That was a luxury. Because
That
back
was a
then there
luxury.
was a yes, because back then there was a lot of budget saving. So you didn't this was literally a luxury, because I remember one event where we had to stay in and stars are irrelevant in hotels, but still it was a 2-star hotel with not very sleepable beds, and we were like, how are we meant to do this? So we actually booked our own. We just took the closest one that we could sleep in and actually feel good in, because it wasn't possible to sleep. And when we understand that that was the thing back then, nowadays I do believe everybody, at least from talking to Insania and so forth, are getting well taken care of. And also, usually today, Andrew and Eric here are in charge of their own team, setting them up in the right hotels, talking with the organizers to make sure everything is taken care of. Back then, we were our own managers. We couldn't afford to hire one because there wasn't enough sponsorship money. So, it's a whole different ballgame, I think. So I correct me if I'm wrong here, Eric and Andrew, but I do think that all players really wants is just a normal standard of living. There are, of course, those little arrogant players that, some in the Dota community might know about that want special treatment and, first class and stuff like that, like you mentioned, but I don't think that's that many.
I can weigh in on that. So obviously, as you say, yeah, obviously, I think most play. I mean, it's my job and to make sure that everything's okay before we arrive, and food, etc., hotel, to make sure everything's like good, or at least standard, right? So there is a certain standard that we have to meet to be able to function properly as a competitor. So it is my job to make sure that everything is up to standard. Yeah, as Pontus said back then, maybe.
I'm sorry, I think Eric's
I think
breaking
we
up.
lost him there. While we lost him, let me just add one thing. I think when it comes to like flights as well, right? Like we talked about first class and stuff like that. The thing that people kind of misconcept about, business class and first class, it's not a matter of flying fancy. It's a matter about waking up early and feeling very fresh, because you don't really do that in economy. So some players do request for business class even back then. And it's only because we would land 2 or 3 days before the event. And if we fly in economy and, we are playing 48 hours later, we're going to have back pain or something else. So I understand why certain players would request for business or first class when there's a few days, like 1 or 2 or maybe 3. Other than that, we really don't care. It's like we just want to get to the place, start practicing, get on the same time zone like Eric talked about before, and I'll hand it back to him now that he's here.
I'm sorry.
Yes, Eric. Yeah, no worries. No.
Yeah, so obviously, standard wise, I think standard wise generally, most tournaments they do provide standard environment for us. It's just that obviously there will be players that would they do want to push the limit, make it better, first class, business class, whatever it is. They would ask for it, but I think it's also very. They will also have they will also need to know that I will be trying to provide what is the best possible for them, and if I can't get it, this is it. That is all, and they will have to accept that. If the specific player can't accept it, I don't think we will be working long together, because it is what it is. You can't provide what it's out of thin air. You want business class. Business class costs 3 times more than a normal ticket, and if there's no money going into it, That's it, man. I can get you a standard flight. I can get you to compete. I want you. The main point of organizations in general is a support system. It's not the money. It's not having a free house whatsoever. The thing is that gaming house is built to increase performance, not for show, not for. I mean, it can be for show, just for secondary targets, but the main point is that it will increase your performance because you are meeting each other so much. You will talk to each other a lot, and it improves performance. Food budget is there so that people can be good mentally, so that because when they're eating good food, they are in a good mood. So all these costs and extra things, they are there to increase performance. Nothing extra than that. Getting to a flight, getting to a tournament overseas, like on a business class, it does help, but I don't think it significantly improves your performance. Yeah, so the point of organizations in general, all these costs and all these extra things, services that we do for players are mainly there to improve performance. Anything else is like really extra. And it's not necessary per se. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Eric, for that as well. Yeah, it's highly understandable and great insights, I would say, for everyone. Now, our next question will be on salary. All right, okay, no, I'm not going to ask about salary. I feel like this is a very subjective answer. The moment I talked about money and then Zlab gave me that smirk, it's like, no, we're not going to talk about this. I mean, like, it's a very subjective question because, you know, everybody gives out different kind of salaries for all players, right? So the next question is like, as an organization, do you set any kind of do you have any set of rules or regulations and restrictions on your players in your organization in terms of anything, like in terms of if they for example, certain organizations really want their players to focus on winning tournaments and winning competitions, where they do not allow players to actually do, for example, live streams. They don't allow players to actually, you know, do all this kind of, because it will distract the players and more. Do you have this practices in your organization?
If I may throw in an extra thing here for you, Eric, because I think you're the best person to answer this. I would like to know, what do you guys do about personal brand deals? Like, are your players allowed to actually have their own sponsors, or do they need to follow the organization? I would like to know that as well.
Okay, just to answer you first. So brand deals, yes, it is doable, as long as it's not clashing with any current, any of the current sponsors that we have. Obviously, if we are a monster gaming team, and if you want to get Red Bull, that is just, I'm sorry, it's just not possible. But if you want to say, like, you want to get a shampoo deal and nobody had, like, we're not talking to any shampoo right now, just go ahead and we'll give you like a rate and everything is going to be fine. So going back to the question that Flava said about rules and regulations, I mean, I don't see it as rules and regulations. I think that it's more target. Like, what is your main target of the organization? Like, do you want to win? Do you want exposure? Is that what you want? Like, what is the main one? So normally it's these two, right? It's either winning or like exposure. So if you want to win, obviously, I don't think that cutting streaming off completely makes kind of sense. Makes a lot of sense. If a player wants to stream and it's not going to affect his performance, why not? Why not? He streams like 60 hours a month. He's still good. So, you know, like, it's really all the mentality. If it does come to a point that it does affect performance, like if your main target is performance, and it comes to a point where it does affect it, then you should talk to the player and just like try to regulate it a little bit. Okay, maybe cut it down a little bit. Let's try cutting it down, and then we track it and see if it works. You know, and it's always a process. It's not like oh, you can't do this. Obviously, there are stuff that there are red tape. You know, don't say stupid stuff in public, like racist and sexist stuff. But when it comes to like you know, as you say, performance and what you want to win first or exposure first, those can come. It can work hand to hand. It doesn't have to be like one or the other. It can work hand to hand. Winning generally gives you more exposure to begin with, so why not stream? So yeah, there are targets and there are always like a workaround and middle ground that I think most orgs should like try to like achieve with their players.
And I would say, like, from my time in Evolution and as a player, the only thing that, like, as I mentioned previously about the other problems is make sure you follow the local laws. If you are in a country where certain things, aren't legal, then don't talk about it. Don't bring it up. Just keep it separate. You can talk about it when you get home. Respect the local country where you attend as a player, because when you're in that country, you abide by the local rules. It's very simple. And that's kind of a thing that a lot of players got confused about. Oh, I can't say this or that. I'm like, no, you cannot. So that's something that we did need to coach, our own players, and also in Evolution, that just keep certain opinions to yourself when you're in a country where you shouldn't talk about it. That's very important. And secondly, it's again about the not only social media but also in game. Trash talk, as we call it, is a very important thing in esports. But the thing is, words hurt, and especially when hundreds of thousands or millions of people can see it. So what we did is that we kept the trash talk off screen. So we did it more funny, kind of throwing jabs at each other to the other teams. So I remember, when we played a match in Thailand, and we walked past the team, and I was like, nice puck, just because he played really badly and died the whole game, and I just wanted to be a little bit, get into his head a bit. So we try to let our players know, keep all the trash talk behind the scenes as well. Just don't aggravate the fan bases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
As they were saying about the streaming and training, most of my players are actually partner streamers, so they require a certain amount of hours to stream on a certain site, and because of that, sometimes because when you're a streamer, when you're a streamer, you will have the entertainment personality. So therefore, sometimes we have first time experience that they will be like not serious during the training, because sometimes when they stream, it's also a training, because the hours are quite ridiculous right now, as their contract says. But we have to find the middle point, and as tournaments are nearing, we find a balance. They don't really stream, they just do the bare minimum, and we focus on the training, and because those are their income as well, so we need to find the middle point. Yeah.
Also on that point, that's also a reason why most like big players, like very good players, they don't stream that much. They stream on their own leisure. Streaming is not the main job. They don't get the most money from streaming and versus playing in the tournament. So because I think in the Malaysian ecosystem, a lot of team situations are like that. The streaming deals being much significantly higher paying than the pro team job. So because of that, it ends up them having to lean towards streaming more, and that is not it's not ideal for pro life. I would say it's really not ideal. Most professional gamers, the successful ones, they don't stream that much, and when they start streaming a lot, you can see them fall off their pace really quickly. That's what I noticed about in most situations at least. There are exceptions, of course, but not all. Majority of them would be like that.
All right, awesome. All right, I think I do have two more questions. All right, this one's a simple one. Do you foresee esports be featured as part of the Olympic Games?
I can answer this one, I guess. So I think esports is very broad. I think the better question is like, is Dota 2 or League of Legends or
what game titles?
Yeah, because Dota 2 is a basketball, and then League of Legends is a football. It's all different. You can't just say is esports gonna be an esport in the Olympics. It's very broad. I think people have that misconception a lot. So I think that they are trying to make it happen, but honestly, I don't really care if it happens or not, because I think that the ecosystem is doing very well by itself. Trying to host all this, there's a lot of tournaments going around already, and the views are already rather insane at this point. So I don't think it really matters to me whether it gets into the Olympics or not.
Yeah, I think we're going to be there very soon, but it also depends on the host country, right? We had this, and I'm Swedish, so I'm allowed to say this. We had this very stupid decision by Sweden very recently to not accept esports as an official sports. when in fact Swedish teams are some of the best teams in the world in pretty much every game that exists. And our government was like, esports not an official sport, so people couldn't get visas, and the international was moved to Romania. So great job by Romania for picking that up. And I do think that's going to play a factor as well. Depending on who actually becomes in charge of the Olympic Games, that will also decide whether or not esports will be there, because that's just countries. That's how it works. And as I mentioned before, I think we're very close to reaching the professionalism of regular sports. Organizations are getting bigger, as we talked about. We have managers, we have coaches, we have physical therapists. All of this is kind of coming together, that we're almost pretty much at the same standard as regular sports. And another thing, I know I smirked at the salary point, but a lot of esport players are much higher paid than the top football leagues individually. The organizations are paid less money, the sponsorships are less money, like overall, and the companies might not make as much as football organizations, but the individual players are actually making more. So, we're already there on a salary factor. Now it's just a matter of increasing more money to the organization so that they can provide, as Eric so gently put it, more of a support team around the organization. Once that happens, we can keep educating our players, because again, every player is an inspiration for a kid out there, and it's important that they stay that way. And I think that's one portion we got to improve a little bit, because a lot of gamers are a little bit introvert, of course, and that's fine. But eventually you're going to sit in front of thousands of people. So I would say we're very closely there. I do hope that we'll be in the Olympic Games soon, and I do think we will be. Yeah.
All right, I really want to throw in one more question, but unfortunately we are out of time, so we'll just save it for a later day. But of course, I want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much to Andrew from EVOS thank you so much for actually joining us right here. Thank you so much, Zlap, all right, for joining us for GTR, and of course, Eric Khor, you're in Romania. All the best to your team competing for TI and also in training as well. From Fnatic for joining us right here. Thanks so much, Amdat, for giving us the opportunity to actually share their insights and thoughts on the topic given. All right, so we're going to be passing it back to our MC, Hashrul. Take it away.
Thank you, Flavor, and all our wonderful panelists. I did a lot of new stuff behind the scenes, juicy bits on esports, athletes, lifestyles, training, and also their competitive regime. Thanks again. We'll now be moving forward to our next session of the day. It will begin very shortly, so do click join session and also complete the survey for each session for us to continuously serve you better. And we'll be seeing you in a bit.